I tell you, I've been an Eagles fan my whole life. And if you wonder why I'm sitting here with this stupid ass smirk on my face, it's because I literally looked at my wife in the third quarter and said they're gonna lose this game. It was crazy. I mean, like, I'm sitting there watching this shit from the first quarter, right? And I'm paying attention to the fact that you got Kirk Cousins struggled on Monday night, struggled week one, ain't really played to his potential or to his liking. And he knows he struggled. Play calling wasn't correct. Week one against Pittsburgh, changed the game plan going into this game. Great game plan by Zach Robinson, offensive coordinator. Did exactly what he needed to do to get the matchups that he wanted to isolate the Eagles defense. Great, like I said, great game plan by Zach Robinson. But that game was lost by the Philadelphia Eagles. Everybody's going to talk about Saquon not catching the ball. Understandably so. I mean, he catches that ball in the flat, game's pretty much over. But I'll go a step further with you. I literally have come to the conclusion that, like, sometimes you can get too sexy and too exotic with your play calling. Like, for example, early in the game, you're watching Kellen Moore call on 3rd and 9. I mean, this is within the first series of the game. He's calling a quarterback draw on 3rd and 9. Not really the smartest move, not really the sharpest move ever. And honest to God truth, it just shows you that, like, sometimes they try to get too sexy, too exotic. Then on top of it, you get the running game going. And I don't care if it was Doug Peterson. It's been the same thing with Nick Sirianni. It was with Shane Steichen at times, and now it's with, it happened with Brian Johnson, and now it's happening with Kellen Moore. You have an offensive line that is built to maul people. Run the fucking ball. You got Atlanta wasting timeouts. You got Atlanta clearly on the ropes. Game over. Game, set, match. Defeated. You got the momentum on your side. Only the Eagles, only the fucking Birds could blow a game like that. Where literally it's like, well, we know if we stop them, if we score, this game's over. And we know if we get this first down, this game's over. All that being said, they did nothing consistently outside of Jalen Hurts, outside of Saquon Barkley, Avonte Smith, nothing really consistent. I mean, like, defensively, shitty. I mean, that run defense was fucking horrible. Horrible. You got no pressure on fucking Kirk Cousins? None? You got 1 sack on Kirk Cousins. Think about that, y'all. This is coming from a guy coming off an Achilles surgery, can't really move like that. But why? Why was it? Because you saw the moment he sacrificed guys in blitz coverage, liabilities. And it's early in the season, but you got to give it to Kirk Cousins. Back against the wall, had to go drive the length of the field and score. It's really one of those things where it's less about what the Eagles didn't do right and more or less like the Falcons played a good game. But I'll be bullshitting you to say, looking at that, man, I mean, come on. You got Saquon. Everybody's going to talk about him getting the ball in the flat and not catching it. You run that ball. You've been getting first downs with Saquon running the ball. You get that first down, that kills the clock. That was an inexplicable loss. You didn't need to even have the loss. But hopefully it humbles you. Now you're going to go into next week, definitely not favored against New Orleans, especially after they spink Dallas. So it's going to be a true test for him. No A.J. Brown, obviously, for multiple weeks. He announced that. So it's going to be a true test for the Eagles. It's not going to be a cakewalk or a walk in the park. You sat here and you had a clear game plan on what you were doing, and you didn't execute. You ran well. Jalen was productive. Jalen was mobile. Saquon was mobile. You had Smitty getting in on the action. Backup tight end Calcaterra was making plays. Goddard got in late. You got to stick with your fucking running game. It doesn't make any sense why you're walking away with a loss in this game when clearly all you had to do was run the ball and they had no timeouts. Got too sexy, got too flexy with your shit, thought you weren't going to get caught, and you got caught. So again, I'm a lifelong Eagles fan, trust and believe. Didn't want them to lose, but I'm okay with it. Because again, you got to learn from this shit. You got to learn from your mistakes. This is the same thing that we've seen periodically with this team. They start trying to overcompensate. There was no need for you to do a halfback flat to Saquon and stop the fucking clock. I mean, like, what is the thought process with that, Kellen Moore? You know already they need the ball, the clock to stop for them to stay in the game, and you kept them alive. Shout out to Bijan Robinson for the way he ran tonight. He was hella effective. Diced up the Eagles defense, tore him up. Vic Fangio's going to have to make adjustments. Now I know he was all on the Nakobe Dean hype train, and I know Zach Bourne made some plays tonight. But you're going to have an explanation on why Devin White's not playing. Because linebacker-wise, that's somebody you could have used tonight. Now, it wasn't like your linebackers gave up a ton of plays, but they were getting swallowed up at the point of attack in the run game. There was times where the linebackers weren't even able to get a fucking hand on Bijan Robinson or Tyson Algier. So that tells you how effective the Falcons' running game was against Philadelphia. And again, I give Vic credit because, again, it wasn't like Atlanta was moving the ball. They just weren't scoring. Once they started getting points, that's when the game got tight. And I just have this tendency to believe that Philadelphia, since last year, really, when it's tight and it's late, they don't trust it. And that's something that we're going to have to monitor because that's not a mark of a good team. A good team, they win those games late. I know last year was kind of like, fool's gold, where it was like, oh, they were winning tough games. No, this year is a different team. You got to win differently now. You got to win those tough games. You got to win anyway, anyhow. You got to figure a way. And the reality of the situation was, straight up, they just didn't play well enough defensively. I mean, Darius Slay and Avonte Maddox, we really got to consider that these guys might need to be benched. I mean, Darius Slay, he was allowing Drake London whatever the fuck he wanted late in the game. He's getting out psyched. He's getting out physical. He just looked slow. He looked a step slow. Liked how Quinyon Mitchell played. Gardner, Chauncey fucking whiffed on that one fucking tackle early in the game. Don't know where the fuck he was going on that. Pursuit was horrible. However, he redeems himself on the fourth down with the big tackle. Damn near cost us because they tried to say took his helmet off. Replay showed he didn't. But it's just one of those games where you're left perplexed, like, how did they lose? And they simply lost because they didn't do the simple things right. The fundamentals. Securing the ball out the backfield. Making sure you're killing the clock. You got your opponent. Who cares if you win by 3? Who cares? Get the first down, kill the clock. This team needed that. They needed you to stop the clock, and you gave it to them. So, I don't want to hear nobody put this game on Jalen Hurts. I don't want to hear nobody put this game on the wide receivers. I know Saquon's going to catch his hell because he dropped it, rightfully so. That's just something he's going to have to wear. But this game really was lost because of Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore called a very inconsistent and kind of bipolar game plan today. Not really sure what he was doing, where it was going. I mean, there was fucking points in the game where it was just like, you had running plays that were there. He didn't call it. You had passing plays that were there. There was times in the game where the play action was just for the taking, and he just didn't do anything with it whatsoever. They got problems. But, every team in the NFL is flawed. Nobody's perfect. Everybody's still trying to find their lane and their niche. And even those that haven't lost yet haven't been exposed. So, let's be honest. But 1-1. Next week you got New Orleans. Definitely going to not be favored in that game. You're going to have to show up and show and prove. Defense. I mean, what is offensively? You scored without A.J. Brown. You were able to move the ball. The reality is your defense can't stop people in the running game. And then late in the game, when you're talking about passing the ball, there's nobody stopping you from passing the ball. So now it's like they got to really reconsider that Hassan Riddick move. Now, I know a lot of people going to say they're not getting Hassan Riddick back. He want to listen, right? You've had 2 games. Okay? You had more sacks against Green Bay than you did in this game. Your defensive line got no pressure against Uncle Kirk Cousins. None. And Jalen, and I'll argue there was definitely some calls that didn't get called as far as holding. There was a lot of janky shit with that game tonight. Seemed like the defense, when they were being at their most physical or aggressive, the referees were kind of trying to temper it. A lot of ineligible, linemen downfield. Hell, I mean, Jalen Hurts got called for the spike on a delayed game, and I rarely ever see that. So there were definitely some calls tonight that I didn't like. However, your quarterback did everything that he was supposed to get you in position to win this game. That's just what happens sometimes, man. You gotta learn from this shit, though. You can't expect that, all right, we did everything right, it's gonna go our way. No, it won't. Because the reality of the situation is, if you played better defensively, this game would have been over. I mean, the fact that you knew we got to keep them out of the end zone, and you did everything but to keep them out of the end zone, it's an indictment on your defense. Vic Fangio has to wake up and realize these guys cannot. Some of those guys in that defensive backfield, the Slays, the Maddox, they're a little long in the tooth. You got to put some more young guys out there. I mean, it's evident. I mean, Maddox, excluding the injury part, hell, I mean, he almost got called. There was definitely a play where that play in the end zone could have been called pass interference and it didn't get called. He was all draped all over the guy. Just looked slow. I didn't like how also, too, it seemed like to me that the referees, it was kind of weird how they were calling the game. I'll just say that for lack of better words. But ultimately, Vic Fangio going to have to make adjustments. You definitely can't put out that type of product and think that, everything's good. It's not. It's definitely not. Run defense and pass defense late in the game wasn't good. Straight up wasn't good. Talking about the good, though, I liked how Jalen played. I thought Jalen played an excellent game. He played the type of game that you needed him to play, especially with A.J. Brown being out and knowing for a fact that you were going to have to try to make some plays on offense. I'm glad that he did that. However, they have to realize, and this is something Chris Carter said some years ago, referencing this team. They got to realize that they're a running football team. You have the most massive offensive line in football, and you consistently sit here and try to bullshit yourself that you're a passing football team. Yeah, you can throw the football. Yeah, you do have a good passing attack. You're a running football team. You're throwing when you should be running. I mean, it's going to be crazy next week, but, like I said, they're going to have to show and prove. I don't think the adjustments are going to get made quickly because you don't have a pass rush. And you're playing Derek Carr, who's younger and more spry than Kirk Cousins. So you're going to have to show and prove that you can actually generate something because defensively you look like dog shit. Very disappointing. But, like I said, when you don't secure the edges, and that was the other thing too. Why did it take into the second half before Bryce Huff and these guys were securing the edge? It took too long. And I know everybody's gonna be on his ass. I see it now. People are talking about Vic Fangio and Saquon. Hey man, look, we can get on Saquon, but like I said, Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore, they gotta wear this. Because defensively, those guys did not play up to snuff. And offensively, Kellen, you called a bipolar ass game plan that cost you the game. So 1-1, off to New Orleans. So we will definitely see. It's been a long day, y'all. I've had work. I definitely want to make sure I did this reaction video, win or lose. Y'all gonna see this every game. Like I said, y'all gonna definitely be commentating on this, talking about it. I'll have some more stuff coming out. I have an episode coming out tomorrow morning, and there'll be an episode coming out later tomorrow evening that you guys will see. But as always, thank you for watching the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast. Thanks as always for staying tuned in, staying plugged in. Bird game lost tonight. Like I said, 1-point game, but got to tighten it up and regroup from New Orleans. We'll see how they do. But Vic and Kellen Moore, man, get it the fuck together. Enjoy, y'all.